So are you giving up on living?
I don't know. I can't figure women out. Today they're independent. They only think about themselves. Well, during sex, Vanessa, she used to scream out her own name.
It's Rodney Dangerfield playing a wealthy man who joins his son's freshman college class and romances his English teacher, Sally Kellerman, in Back to School. One of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week on At the Movies, the movie review program. I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Rodney's new comedy, we'll also be reviewing a thriller named The Manhattan Project about a bright kid who built his own atomic bomb. And we'll do a special X-ray feature on the career of John Hughes, a director who specializes in movies about bright kids. And right now, Gene starts by reviewing John Hughes' newest film, which is about a kid who takes a day off from school.
I was very disappointed by Hughes' new film called Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because I've been a fan of writer-director Hughes and the lead actor of this film, Matthew Broderick, for a long time. The story would be simple enough to do well. It's the story of a bright, aggressive kid who decides to ditch school and have one great day with some friends, and particularly help out his best male friend. Part of the style of the film is that Broderick looks directly into the camera and talks to us a lot. Now, that's a very bold move in the movies, usually reserved for the very funny words of someone like Woody Allen. But Matthew Broderick has nothing special to say when he looks us straight in the eye.
How could I possibly be expected to handle school on a day like this? This is my 9th sick day this semester. It's getting pretty tough coming up with new illnesses. If I go for 10, I'm probably going to have to barf up a lung. So I better make this one count. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. I do have a test today. It's on European socialism. I mean, really, what's the point? I'm not European. I don't plan on being European. So who gives a crap if they're socialists? They can be fascist anarchists. It still wouldn't change the fact that I don't own a car.
So much for the history of man. Anyway, Ferris grabs his best pal and girlfriend, and their lark includes lunch in a fancy restaurant.
4,000 restaurants in the downtown area. I picked the one my father goes to.
We're pinched for sure.
No way, Cameron. When the meat get pinched, the boat survives. Let's go.
Let's surrender.
Never.
Dave, I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse in this one, but I'm telling you that that's not the case. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Dave, you're one of the brightest guys in this business. You know what it takes to push this over the top. We're going to go heavy on TV, lighten up on the radio and print.
That wasn't very exciting. Later, at a German-American Day parade in downtown Chicago, Ferris gets the whole town rocking to something other than a famous German-American song. That scene didn't thrill me, and I live in Chicago. This picture, which is a tribute to Chicago, which is also writer-director John Hughes' hometown, is not as fresh or as funny or as energetic as another Chicago tribute movie, The Blues Brothers. And frankly, that's because Ferris Bueller doesn't do anything much fun. The fancy restaurant scene is a weak imitation of the one in Beverly Hills Cop. The way Ferris fools his principal in ditching school is ridiculous low comedy involving the principal getting bitten by a dog and stepping into mud. Nothing special happens when the kids go to a ball game, and they don't even sit in the bleachers where all the kids love to sit when they go to Cubs games. How bad is this film? The most interesting characters are developed right at the end of this picture. A little romance develops between Ferris's mean sister, Jennifer Grey, who's kind of cute, and a troublemaking kid played by Charlie Sheen. I would have followed them in the movie, but that's too little, too late.
You know, they say never take an expert to see a movie because he won't be able to see the forest for the trees. I think you're so eager to find little flaws in the pictures view of Chicago that you're not looking at the movie. I mean, I don't think it matters whether they get the best seats at Wrigley Field or not. This is a sweet, inoffensive, heartwarming little movie about a kid who's trying to help his friend win some self-respect. And on that basis, I think it works, and I thought it was sort of entertaining.
But Roger, I point out some little mistakes, but I point out very big mistakes, which is the whole sections of comedy, limp comedy involving the school principal. I mean, I don't think you were laughing at any of that stuff. And the other thing is this whole mentioning of helping his friend, that is just snuck in at the end. And I think that most of the picture is about Ferris fooling his parents, fooling the teacher. If you put a clock on it, most of it is about that fooling.
I think
this film needs to be redirected and edited.
I think you can kind of see, if you watch the film attentively, that generally speaking, Ferris Bueller has a bigger plan in that day than just simply skipping school. As for the principal, I agree, it was slapstick. The actor, Jeffrey Jones, incidentally, who played the Emperor in Amadeus, gives a real good job, though, of being an interesting school dean, and I thought his performance was interesting, even though they gave him nothing
They gave him nothing to do, and I'll tell you, the sister is the real star of the film.
We're going to get into real stars. How about Mia Sara, who plays Matthew Broderick's girlfriend, and who is one of the loveliest and freshest actresses I've seen in a long time.
And like many members of this cast, in my opinion, given absolutely nothing interesting to do.
Okay, well, I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I'm recommending it, and you're absolutely not. So
you got it.
You got it. Next at the movies, a comedy about a middle-aged freshman who don't get no respect. His name, Back to School, and it stars Rodney Dangerfield in his best role yet, a role that comes the closest to combining the Rodney that we know and love with a good story and some good direction. In the movie, Dangerfield plays a wealthy retailer who decides to drop out of a rat race and return to college as a freshman. He wants to help out his son, who can't get into a fraternity and is only the towel boy on the diving team and, in general, don't get no respect. Here's a scene that explains how Rodney gets the university to accept him as a student.
This is an awkward moment for me, Mr. Mellon, since I realize you're a highly respected member of our business community.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our student body here is handpicked by me from the creme de la creme of students all across this great land of ours.
That's one of the things I like about this place.
Yes. The point is, though, since you have no high school diploma and no transcripts of any kind, no SAT scores, and you're 30 to 40 years older than our average freshman, how can this university ever see its way clear to accept you as a student? Mr. Mellon, will you take the ceremonial shovel?
Thank you.
And dig into the symbolic dirt?
I hereby dedicate this building to myself.
Rodney's approach to undergraduate life is like a guy who walks into a bar and buys drinks for everyone.
With the used books.
What's wrong with used books?
They've already been read.
Yeah, and they've already been underlined, too, get it?
That's the problem. The last guy who underlined them, he could have been a maniac. Hey, get these guys some new books. Get some new books, will you? I'll tell you what, charge it to me, too. Okay, here, pick a card. And I'll tell you, I'm taking 4 of those school sweaters, a bunch of pennants, some of those beer mugs, a few of these fuzzballs you cheer with, and... Hey, folks, it's on me. Shakespeare for everyone, okay?
Dangerfield discovers a few aspects of campus life he can really identify with, like English professor Sally Kellerman.
He kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought, well, as well him as another. And then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes. And then he asked me, would I yes to say yes, my mountain flower. And first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breath all perfumed, yes. And his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said, yes, I will, yes.
Yes!
The plot in Back to School has a lot of familiar ingredients in it, like the uptight dean and the crazy history professor and the campus jock who looks down on everyone. But what it also has, and what I like the most about it, is a lovable character for Rodney Dangerfield to play. He gets to use all of his patented one-liners and insults and put-downs, but at the same time, he's a sweet guy who thinks attending college shouldn't be any harder than selling slacks. My favorite scene is the one where he takes the class in business management and he tries to make a few helpful suggestions about the real world of kickbacks and payoffs. I was surprised how much I liked this movie.
I wasn't surprised because I like Rodney Dangerfield as soon as I see him on camera. As the camera hits him and I start to laugh. What amazed me is that it worked within this setting, because you would think that the last person that you'd want to go to school with would be one of your parents. I mean, you'd be freezed up, you wouldn't enjoy it. But if this guy were your dad, school would be a lot of fun because he's a blast.
Yeah.
And he has this whole, you know, I'm an immigrant. I made millions of dollars. Let's have a party. Life should be a party. And he's absolutely irresistible on camera. The character is beautifully written, beautifully played by Dangerfield. It's a ball. I had a terrific time.
It's also interesting because there's a very good screenplay here. It's not just Rodney Dangerfield and his one-liners.
Yes.
Obviously, the person who wrote this screenplay knew something about going to college, knew something about English lit. They take that scene where she's reading from Joyce's Ulysses is very beautifully done, and he is moved, and there's a certain genuine feeling to go along with the comedy, and all through the movie, there's a genuine emotional basis for the jokes, which helps to make them play better.
This is a good one. Good acting, good writing. Coming up next, a bright young student builds an atomic bomb for a science project. The film is the Manhattan Project, and it might be dismissed by some people as another one of those films about kids and their science projects going to miss, but if you do that, you're making a big mistake, because we had 3 of those last summer. Only one of them was good. This one is very good. It's a very special film, funny and chilling at the same time, and extremely well acted by Christopher Collett as a bright young man interested in science and also interested in the real identity of the scientist who starts dating his mother.
He's hot for my mother. He figures I'm a dumb kid.
He's hot for your mother, really?
Uh-huh. You got a knife for a screwdriver or something?
That's the door.
Plus which, he's got all these security clearances. I don't know what they are. Los Alamos, Livermore Labs, Oak Ridge. Do you know what they make at Oak Ridge?
What?
Nuclear warheads.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying he lied, okay? At the very least, he invites me out there, and then he lies like I'm some kind of a wimp.
I think you're overreacting.
To what?
I don't know. Edible jealousy, maybe.
Oedipal jealousy. What's that, psychology class? Does this look like Oedipal jealousy?
What is that?
What does it look like?
A 5-leaf clover. Where'd you find it?
Growing outside that lab. You know the odds on that kind of mutation happening naturally without chemicals or radiation or something?
What?
There are none. I looked it up. It's like 1 billion to 1. It never happens.
Maybe you're just very lucky. Oh, my God.
He's right. The man works for the Defense Department, and the two of them are placed in conflict when Paul builds a nuclear bomb as a science project, scaring the scientist, played by John Lithgow.
They don't care how old you are, how cute. They're gorillas. They can hurt you, don't you get it? If you try to tough it out with them, they'll lock you in a room somewhere and throw away the room.
It's really that important to you, huh?
It's not just to me, Paul. To everybody. And what do you say?
Okay.
That's better. Where is it?
Oh, no. Not now.
What do you mean, not now? When?
After the fair.
Oh, come on, Paul.
But it's got to be judged. I'm going to win first prize.
You're joking.
No. Did you see the junk they got down there?
Paul, forget the science fair. It's over, okay? No more science fair. Look, this is top secret stuff. Nobody sees this. Not ever. You could start a war, for Christ's sake.
Eventually, Lithgow and the kid join forces to defuse the bomb before it explodes, while government agents look on nervously.
Nice design, actually.
Is it armed?
Nope.
You certain?
Mm-hmm. It's all in sections.
Paul. We know it's not armed, Paul. So I want you to put it down and walk away.
Walk away?
That's right. I'm going to count to 3.
Hey, let me talk to him.
Doctor, stay out of this.
Conroy on that thing.
1. This wasn't part of the deal. 2. Don't hit the box.
Jesus.
You've got plutonium in that hole!
The Manhattan Project moves along briskly. It's brightly written and directed by Marshall Brickman, who used to write with Woody Allen, and its message doesn't clobber you over the head because also it's a lot of fun. I'd put it in a class, actually, with war games, and that's a very good class indeed.
I thought it was a terrific film. It's probably more intelligent than War Games because it spends more time actually explaining how this could happen. I love movies, and I think you do too, that show the process.
Right.
That show how things work and how you figure them out and how you get from one step to the next step. And
The how-to movie.
And by the end of this movie, I believe that this kid, in his own way, could have built this atomic bomb. In fact, there was a story about a college student who did it on paper, and this kid does it in real life. As a thriller, it's absolutely riveting from beginning to end. You can talk about it as a kid movie, you can talk about it as a comedy. As a thriller, it works.
No, and you know, it's one of those cases where if you stop to analyze it, you realize certain things can't happen. But the test of it is, and again, you got to credit the director. He gets the pace of this movie going, so our mind's taken off where it's going to lead, and we buy it.
That's right, and then there's kind of a subtle relationship, too, and considering that the kid doesn't know exactly how to relate to Lithgow, because after all, Lithgow and his mother are having an affair, so there's a divided loyalty there. Next at the movies, a longer look at John Hughes, the director who takes teenagers seriously.
This semester, it's getting pretty tough coming up with new illnesses. If I go for 10, I'm probably going to have to barf up a lung, so I better make this one count.
The subject of our X-ray this week, the films of John Hughes. And John Hughes is a director who has specialized in making ambitious and serious movies in an area where Hollywood produces mostly just junk. I'm talking about teenage films, which are aimed at the largest group in the movie-going population, the people who are about between the ages of 13 and 22. Most teenage movies are about two basic kinds of teenagers, either dead ones in movies like Friday the 13th, or sex-crazed ones in movies like Porky's. When John Hughes looks at teenagers, he sees something different. He sees thoughtful, sincere, sometimes troubled, insecure kids who basically want to do the right thing. His first teenage movie was the one that made a star out of Molly Ringwald, and it's called 16 Candles. Eek, the class geek. Then Hughes made The Breakfast Club about 5 kids who spent a day in detention together.
I can make spaghetti.
What can you do?
I can tape all of your buns together. I want to see what Claire can do.
Can't do anything.
You know, everybody can do something.
There's one thing I can do. No, forget it. It's way too embarrassing.
You ever seen Wild Kingdom? I mean, that guy's been doing that show for 30 years.
A movie I like more than a lot of people was Weird Science, where 2 bright kids use their computers to invent a woman. A woman played by Kelly LeBrock, who teaches them women are a lot more complicated than teenagers think. Then Hughes made another movie with Molly Ringwald in the age-old story of a poor kid who falls in love with a rich kid, Pretty in Pink.
You understand? You can't do this and respect yourself. You can't.
Well, I'll make that decision, all right?
Sure, you can do what you want.
You know you're talking like that just because I'm going out with Blaine.
Blaine? His name is Blaine? Oh, that's not a major appliance. That's not a name.
Just because I'm going out with Blaine doesn't mean I can't be friends with you. I mean, it doesn't change the way I feel about you.
Now comes Hughes' latest movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, about a teenage boy who has a plan to give his best friend more self-confidence.
The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT, California. Less than 100 when paid. My father spent 3 years restoring this car. It is his love, it is his passion, it is his fault he didn't lock the garage.
Yeah, because the father likes the car more than he likes his son, the kid in the red shirt there. In all of John Hughes' movies, there's more than the story. There's a serious message which his audience seems to identify with. Serious but simple, like in Ferris Bueller, where the message is basically that you only go around once in life and you don't want to let it pass you by no matter what. One criticism of Hughes' movies is that the parents are usually very one-dimensional, distant adults who love their kids but don't understand them. Well, says Hughes, he doesn't portray the parents from his point of view, but from the point of view of his teenage characters. And I guess he'd argue there are a lot of movies about the problems of grown-ups.
Well, Roger, I have followed the career of John Hughes with some excitement, like you, because we've had this teenage genre for the last few years, overwhelmingly lousy films. Mm-hmm. And when he came along with 16 Candles, and particularly with The Breakfast Club, it is a breath of fresh air because they're intelligent films and the kids approximate kids in reality. I just felt that Weird Science, where you acknowledged that you were sort of Alone Out There.
All alone on that one, right? But I'll stand by it.
Okay. At that point, I find his career diminishing, and I can't figure out why. I don't know whether it's success got to his head or what it is, but these pictures don't, the later ones, Pretty in Pink, and then especially Ferris Bueller, which I already reviewed and we talked about, just don't match up. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's trying to do too much. He's got a multi-picture pack, you know, and all this kind of thing. He's been embraced tremendously by corporate Hollywood. Maybe he's trying to do too much. He certainly is a good writer in those early films, and I just don't know whether...
I think maybe the problem is you expect him to do too much. Most of the teenage movies you don't like have absolutely no ambition at all. His movies are almost always at least trying to do something. They have a heart, they have some tenderness, they have some intelligence, they have a message at the end. Some are much better than others, but all of them I'm happy to see, and I'm glad he's making them.
Well, listen, he's you know, when you mention pictures like Porky's and this kind of stuff, he's obviously head and shoulders above that. I just would, if you were sitting here in the aisle with us, you know, I'd say, get back to that earlier stuff, whatever it takes, because I think you're really someone special. Now let's review our reactions to the movies on this show. We split on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Roger liked it. I didn't think it was that exciting of a day. But 2 thumbs up for Rodney Dangerfield going back to school. He's irresistibly funny. And finally, 2 even more enthusiastic thumbs up for The Manhattan Project, a most entertaining adventure with a gentle message. You liked everything.
Manhattan, yeah, I did, but Manhattan Project the most, and this is one of the real good movies of the year. Sometimes we have the best movie of the week. I think this is one that kind of goes beyond this week to become one of the best movies of the summer. Who knows, maybe one of the best movies of the year. Next week at the movies, Bob Hoskins, that tough-talking, bullet-headed British actor, stars in Mona Lisa, where he plays a London criminal. The performance winning the Best Actor Award at this year's Cannes Film Festival, and we'll review it next week. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.